Bizarre Brain Comics. When Capt.America throws his mighty shield, ooh yeah! Hello. Gary here again for Bizarre Brain Comics. And so we're going to talk about a specific comic. This one right here, that is the Capt.America and the Falcon, number 155, Marvel Comics, 1972. Yes, 1972. 20 cents. You can't even get a beat up old coverless copy for 20 cents these days. And this particular issue is, as it says here on the cover, it says, "Never seen before, the secret origin of Captain America." It's like, what's so secret about it? Everyone's known his origin. Well, it's not this one. Okay. Now this, let's see here. Open my book of knowledge. Capt.America and the Falcon, number 155, 1972, by Marvel Comics. The Secret Origin of Capt.America, written by Steve Englhardt and drawn by Sal Buscema. Now, Steve Englhardt is a comic writer and novelist, best known for his work of the 1970s and 80s at Marvel and DC Comics. His first work in comics was as an assistant to Neil Adams, working on a story written by Denny O'Neil for Warren Publishing, doing a Vampirella magazine. Shortly afterward, he started writing full-time with Gardner Fox. You might remember Gardner Fox, creator of Justice League of America, with Julie Schwartz, that is. Then began working at Marvel. After some uncredited work, he did some romance and Western stories. In his superhero work, he rolled in the character Patsy Walker, who was a teen romance character at Marvel, and rolled her into the main Marvel superhero universe. And she eventually became an adventurer. She was known as the Cat. He did major work on Doctor Strange and co-created Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, which we will cover sometime in the future, with Jim Starlin, who we also will undoubtedly cover sometime in the future. Okay, now Sal Buscema. That name may sound familiar. To the readers of fantasy comics, especially Conan the Barbarian, because it's his brother. Worked for decades on that character. Sal Buscema is a Brooklyn-born artist who has done major work on all the Marvel characters. I don't think I've ever seen him do anything other than Marvel. He is the youngest sibling of fellow comic artist John Buscema. He grew up being a big fan of Hal Foster's Prince Valiant comic strip, who we will talk about sometime in the future, as well as illustrator Norman Rockwell, who everyone knows and we will probably not talk about. He credited his brother John as an inspiration to draw. Sal graduated from the High School of Music and Art in 1955. He worked for a time at a small advertising art studio doing production work. Then was drafted into the Army in 1956 as an illustrator for the Army Corps of Engineers and did film strips and charts. After commercial art, he started working for Marvel in '68. And over the years, he worked on many projects with Roy Thomas and Steve Englehart. And he has worked, the most recent of his work that I remember seeing was some Spider-Man from early in the 2000s or the 90s. I can't remember. So, those are the creators. Now let's get into the Captain America and the Falcon. When Captain America throws his mighty shield. Da 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 da. Okay, the Captain America and the Falcon, 155, 1972. Look at this cover, drawn by Sal Buscema. And very strong Cap-type pose, eye-catching. It looks almost like he got a target on him. That could be intended to describe the shield. And then you look, of course, all these little interstitial scenes and figures with Cap in action. If you look closely, you might wonder, say, I don't know these villains except for the Red Skull. Well, that'll be explained. Here we go. You see the splash page. The incredible origin of the other Captain America. What? Yeah. And here you see the credits. Sal Buscema, Steve Englhardt, Frank McLaughlin did the inks. This is some very good. I was never a big fan of Sal Buscema. I can't really say why. His work, especially his early work, looked so much like his brother's. And in fact, when I went back to reread this, I thought this was John Buscema art until I read the credits. That's good, dramatic. You can see the ghostly image of Cap here. This is Steve Rogers right here, and with his girlfriend Sharon on vacation. That, of course, and Sharon might be better known as Agent 13 from Sheild. And of course, there's this uniform on the hanging on the back of a chair, and they're goofing around, tossing, playing on the beach, tossing her around, utilizing both their skills, and then flip. And we'll see. They're going to do a race. He goes, then Cap sees, oh, figure over here. Oh, what's this? No, it can't be. What? That boy. He looked like, can't be, Sharon. And he takes off after the boy that he saw, and gets into the forest, and wham! He's knocked out. And now we say, what? There's another Captain America here. At last, after all our effort, we finally got him. Yeah, partner, I knew my face would suck him in, the fool. Captain America is beaten by Captain America. Yeah. And so then he changes the second Captain America, who looks just exactly like Steve Rogers, changes clothes, swimsuit, but as Sharon approaches, she notices that her Steve was sunburned. This one's not. And then so she takes off, knowing something's wrong. Just about to catch her, and wham! The Falcon arrives just in time. Turns out that he'd already had an encounter with these guys before, and he was coming to warn Cap. So there they are on the beach duking it out, and Falcon's trained bird, the Falcon Red Wing. Yeah, it takes, you can see it takes draws some blood on the fake Cap. But they're just outmatched and a little bit out-teamed using a trick. Knocks out Sharon, and then they can double-team Falcon. Because remember, Falcon is only a normal man. And here they are, captives. Welcome, scum. Welcome back to awareness. Now that I have you all together, it's time to tell you the reason for all this. I want you to know who I am and how I became this way before I kill you. For you see, I am the Captain America of the 1950s. What? 1950s? Yes. And then He starts weaving this tale of he was a big fan of Captain America when he was a kid during the war. He grew up, went to college, and accidentally discovered the secret version of the secret super soldier formula in some Nazi records that had been swiped. And there it goes. Yeah, that is the formula. And he tries to reproduce it. And anyway, he goes to the government proposing another super soldier program. And they test it and makes this little monkey super strong. And they go through. Then, because this is during Korea, and then the war come to an end just before. He even had plastic surgery to make him look just like Steve Rogers for continuity. And then the war ends. The project is canceled, and using the identity of Steve Rogers, which was already being implanted. He becomes a professor. He meets this kid who looks just like Bucky, and he's a big fan of Bucky. And they're hanging out together. And the kid shows that he made a Captain America costume for Steve. Well, no, they can't. They're not going to. They hold it. Okay, now here's something special right here. Because there was, for a time, some Captain America comics in the 50s. This was supposed to be the same Captain America from the World War II. But okay, and this one here, you see this artwork. This was some early artwork drawn by John Romita. Yeah, great John Romita, who I talked about in one of my Spider-Man videos. Okay, now this is where that old artwork picks up, because they weaved this into an existing story in which the kid is always being mocked and criticized, and here they are together, and they hear about some Nazis someone taking the Red Skull. Yeah, it's the Red Skull taking some hostages in the UN building. So they take off to New York, and they go to the UN building, and here we switch back to the newer art, and this is when they load up, get suited up, and then they take the super soldier serum, and then Captain America and Bucky live again. And now back to the early John Romita art. Here he was billed as Johnny Romita. And there they are getting in there, and there's the Red Skull. He's back from the dead. Stop it. I can't do those voices so much anymore. It's a cool version of the Red Skull. And they stop that, and then it mentions, it was glorious to be a living legend and fight the Red Skull, who turned out to be a real Red, who had stolen the name from the Nazi villain, to battle the clutching hand of all communism all across the globe, in such other forms as the Russian killer Electro, not related to Spider-Man villain Electro, and the Chinese assassin, the man with no face. Those are the ones we saw on the cover. We were the champions of democracy, the inspirations to millions, Captain America and Bucky, the sentinels of liberty. But he started going nuts as a side effect of the flawed super soldier formula. And they were taken down and put in suspended animation until they could be helped. And he was a terrible racist. Became very terrible racist and xenophobe. Okay, then when some guy in the government was not happy when Nixon made his trip to China and trip to Russia next. What the devil's happening to this country? Somebody's got to turn the red tide before we're all in communes. We need men who know the commies for what they are. Men like this Capt.America. Then they're freed, and they're not in their right minds. Okay. They're still captives, and he says Falcon kind of pesters him a little bit. He says, we went through all those hassles studying surgery to look just like Cap, and then you forgot to put the red and white stripes on your back like the real McCoy. You're a loser, man. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! You're against me like all commie scum. Have your little laugh, but see if you're still smiling when I kill you. And then, turns out, the real Cap was already free. He had broken his bonds. While they're alone, they suit up for him, and now they're getting ready. But that doesn't make him any less. I said, well, it doesn't seem to be his fault that he's so dangerous, but that doesn't make him any less malignant. He's had it all his own way till now, but now it's our turn. Now it's time for the showdown, and then next issue, Capt.America must die. Boom, boom, boom. I didn't talk too much about the art here as we're going by, but other than we had the nice interstitial there with the John Romita art. See it's nice artwork, but it's very dated, which is not to say bad. And I have to say, this is some of the best Sal Buscema art that I can think of. Did a good job making the character for character continuity, making them look pretty much the same, but really did a good job, like they're giving him an evil expression to the Steve Rogers face. And some really nice figures all throughout. I really like this panel here for the background, and then the ultra patriotic shot right there. That's some really nice. And here you see him bullying a black guy. This would have been in the 50s. And he said, but somehow we seemed to outgrow the world. We began finding reds where others saw nothing, like in Harlem and Watts. In fact, we found that most people who weren't pure-blooded Americans were commies. So he wasn't in his right mind, because they're all pure-blooded Americans, man. Some really nice artwork. I really have to commend Steve Englhardt on this story. I like the story. I like the way he wove the classic, the old John Romita art into this story. To weave this story because they had done Capt.America for a little bit, but in the 60s they retconned the Capt.America story so that he was, because they still published a little bit after the war, and then they retconned him to having been lost at the end of the war and frozen for 20 years. Of course, now it's 70 years. But they had the other version of Capt.America, who was still supposed to be a continuation of that Capt.America. So I really have to say, really like this issue. As you can now look here, you can see right there the grease pencil code on the cover. This is an issue I bought 49 years ago at the drugstore as an 11-year-old kid. Yeah, that's good. Good job to the creators. I really enjoy this book, and maybe you ought to look it up if you can. And that's all I've got. Remember, please share to your other comic-loving friends, subscribe, and remember, comics are art.